I now would like to open the floor out to any questions from any member of our panel. There's a microphone in the center of the room. Yes, please. Please just go ahead and...
I have a question for David. How is it like to talk to, interview people with severe psychological problems?
I would say that you just take your time and be patient. People's memories are pretty bad. They're often reluctant to talk about their combat experiences, and I think if you ask them specifically about them, you'd never get an answer. But I found just to have a conversation with them, you know, maybe starting with how they joined the Army and having them take you through step by step their experiences works pretty well. At the same time, because some of these guys' memory was so unreliable, I had to try and follow up on every detail by confirming it with other people who were there or through records or something like that.
Yes, please. Please approach the microphone.
It's a long way. So since David was talking, I just have a question for him and then a general question. I just want to know if you have any idea what the government is doing with these soldiers, because when they send away, I think that they know how they will come back. There have been a lot of researchers by psychiatrists, psychologists about how violent situation can affect people's behaviors. So my question is, in your article, did you address how the government, why or why not the government is treating these people when they come back? Because the American government, since Vietnam War, has researched the behavior of people. And Freud, Eric Dichter have written a lot of books and articles about behavior.
So your question is, how does this compare to previous wars?
No.
Is that your question? No.
My question is if David knows why the government is not addressing returning soldiers.
Okay.
And then I have a general question. I mean, if I can have two.
Yes.
So, now, it's nice to hear about all these investigative works, but my concern is about another profession that is taking over journalism, which is public relations. I just want to know, how does public relations affect the work of an investigative journalist? Okay.
All right, so that's a tough one. We can
Let's
organize
just answer-
a
let's
whole
just answer
panel
the
about
second,
that.
because they're both huge questions. Let's answer the second.
Right.
That's
The first
really-
question, David, you take it, and then we'll have the others address the second question. So what is the government doing about returning soldiers?
You know, actually, there's a ton of people within the military doing good things to actually try to help people who have been, wounded in war, including psychologically. But there's also people who are sending those people off to get hurt, whether through gunshots or otherwise. Why does it happen? It's a huge policy question that I can't get to. It's human nature that's been going on forever. But it has been interesting to see so much of the response to Iraq and Afghanistan was shaped by Vietnam and our perceived response or lack of response to Vietnam. And I think that's still going on today. And to see how we really do treat people, how we respond to veterans is a lot how we thought we did wrong to people in Vietnam. And so the idea of saying thank you for your service to everyone. I just got off the phone today with a guy who runs a nonprofit who's a veteran, and he said, here's the thing that the society doesn't get. They think that we are all broken heroes that, did something totally heroic, but now we come back forever scarred and we'll never be the same, and now we need the pity and the help of society. And 99% of us are neither broken nor heroes. We're people that are coming back and need to get back to work. So that's sort of what I'm thinking about now, is how do you tell that story of all these people who've come back and can't find their place, but there's nothing necessarily wrong with them, except that they don't know where they fit anymore.
So the big PR question.
By PR, are you talking about native advertising and native content and content marketing and all of these things we are talking about now in journalism?
Yeah, putting the new, putting something that has to do with PR.
I don't know that I have all the answers. I'm curious what Chris will say working for BuzzFeed. I will say that, I will tell you that we did not have a single advertiser that I'm aware of come forward after the work that we published and say, that was tremendous work. I would like to buy, and I own a sofa company, and I would like to buy an ad in your newspaper. That did not happen. We had a tremendous outpouring from readers who appreciated the work we were doing, but I struggle now, mid-career, with this disconnect between what I believe readers want out of newspapers and journalism and what advertisers are willing to support and what circulation is willing to support. And I don't quite understand or know the bridge yet that's going to be built, because we still believe the work we're doing is really important, and we watch the advertising continue to decline. So I don't know that I have a great answer for that, other than if we can all figure out a way to support journalism, then I'm open to hearing about it. I don't know that I would have said that 15 years ago, but I still want to do the work that we're doing. And if we can figure out a way, for example, to label and be transparent about what is the types of content that journalism is producing or that journalism is somehow attached to, then I'm willing to talk about that, because the road that we're on now doesn't look great. Like I said, we didn't have a lot of advertisers come out of the woodwork after we won a Pulitzer saying, I would love to advertise in your newspaper today.
Chris, ball's in your court.
So, first of all, I mean, look, I probably would have been more apprehensive about, I probably would have had a different answer to that sort of question 10 years ago as well. The truth is, we have to get money from somewhere. And I mean, unless you know a lot of billionaires who are just going to donate money to us to produce investigative journalism that might make them look bad, I'm not really sure. I don't have all the answers. But, you know, I will say that I don't, there's some criticism of advertorials or native advertising. I have come sort of to the view that I don't really view that much differently than other advertising, and in fact, you'll sometimes see advertorials in newspapers as well. I think, like Joanna said, the key is just to be transparent and label everything. And I think that at BuzzFeed, we do that. I mean, it's very, very clear what is a sponsored post. And I mean, you know, I don't think anyone looking at it would mistake a list compiled by Hershey's of chocolate chip stuff with some BuzzFeed. I could be wrong about that. But I mean, I would just say we have to pay for it somewhere. Stuff may look different now. We're sort of in a new format here. So BuzzFeed doesn't look like a daily newspaper. It's not supposed to. But I would say the principles underlying it are the same. The firewall between the advertising and the editorial, the principles of labeling everything and being transparent with your readers. So I think it's how do we apply the same journalistic principles and ethics to an ever-changing sort of media environment.
Stephen, I presume that the fortunes of the news industry in Detroit sort of mirror the cities.
They're pretty bad. You know, I mean, I think everyone understands the business model that, you know, has served this industry since Ben Franklin was publishing newspapers is broken. It does not work. We've got to find something else. I think there are a lot of interesting experiments going on. Some places we are going back to the future. You know, Jeff Bezos buying the Post is a good example of the sort of, you know, maybe I shouldn't use this word, but you know, the rich oligarch who owns a newspaper and doesn't really worry about how much newspaper or how much money it makes. Is that the future? I don't know. I mean, he's certainly trying to find a way to make more money off of this. I am really intrigued right now by the expansion of journalism in the nonprofit space. Public media, we're seeing these sort of new, very creative nonprofit journalism outfits crop up in Michigan who are doing really, really serious, in-depth work on a model that doesn't doesn't care whether their return is 15% next year as opposed to 12. Is that the future? I'm not sure. I think the one thing that gives me real hope is that you have people sitting up here who did incredible work that made an incredible difference, and there is an incredible thirst for that. Our work, I think, has never been more important or in demand than it is now. The question is, how do we pay for it? I always figured that question will get answered because the work is so vital, but we'll probably struggle for a while we figure it out.
Yes, please.
A question for Chris and a question for David. Chris, you said that there was some apprehension by your editors. You feared that there would be some apprehension by your editors when discussing the law firms that were, supporting the coal companies. How come you were fearful about that? Like, I know the obvious libel issues. How come you were so fearful about revealing that information? And for David, do veterans now, because of your reporting on that issue, do they view you as a friend, in a way, as someone who's fighting for their cause?
My hero.
Well, I'm not sure that I said that I was fearful of publishing it. It's just something that's always in the back of your mind, that we have to be very careful and document our facts extensively. And so, no, I mean, this is exactly the kind of story that I want to find, and I want to, expose what's going on in these sorts of situations. I think it's just sort of a part of the profession that you have to think about risks as well. And I think that's all I was really trying to convey, is that, there is a serious risk when you're taking on a litigious organization, and you have to think about that throughout the process.
David.
So the military is so vast that there are people that hate me, and there's people that really appreciate what I do. And it's hard to figure out which is what you're going to encounter.
Yes.
Hey, so congratulations and thanks for coming. Really good talk. So you guys are sitting basically at the pinnacle of journalism right now, where we all hope to be. And I'd really be curious to hear if you just have like a little brief piece of advice for us who are just embarking on the beginning of our careers. Thank you.
Words of wisdom for aspiring journalists, aspiring Pulitzer Prize winners. Yeah.
Don't aspire to be a Pulitzer Prize winner.
I was going to say something really profound, like work hard, write a lot. Dave's heard me say this before. I equate journalism a lot to baseball, and you need a lot of at-bats, singles, doubles, and triples, and just write, cover night cops and City Hall and the Supreme Court, and there are great stories to be written everywhere, on every beat, all the time, every day, in every community, everywhere. And it sounds very simple, but I would venture to guess that all of us have worked very, very hard, and hard work goes a long way, I would say.
As long as we have liberty and freedom.
You want to add to that?
I would say, I mean, I count myself among the most fortunate journalists in the country, because I live in the city where I was born. I get to write about the city I care about more than any other place, and I don't think it's an accident that I feel like the work has reached a new level of performance because of that. I think identifying what that is for you, whether that's a place or a thing or a topic, I think is a real key, and not everybody gets to do it, obviously. So I'm always really thankful that I do.
And I would add to all that, you don't have to be the most well-credentialed, brilliant, you don't have to be the most anything. A lot of it is sort of, there's some being in the right place at the right time involved in it. A lot of it is working hard and trying to just make the most of whatever situation you're in. I have got a big stack of rejection letters on all kinds of things. I mean, you know, and it's a motivator. You know, 4 years ago, I was applying for jobs and people wouldn't even respond to me. And I was fortunate to land at the Center for Public Integrity, which is a great place, which is one of the few places in the country who would let some 28-year-old kid spend a year on a project like this. And I couldn't have done that anywhere else. Now, if you have in your mind, I have to be at, I don't know, the New York Times, which is a great, everyone would love to work there, and that's a great thing. But I mean, make the most of whatever situation you're in, and just because, you know, you think you're at, you know, the alt weekly in some small town doesn't mean you can't do great work. And I think that's especially magnified these days with, like Dave was saying, I mean, the social media really can magnify something that probably, you know, previously would have been a big story in Colorado, and now it's a big national story. So you can do a story for a small outlet, and it can blow up.
Yeah, I would say that the cool thing that you guys have going on, like the bad thing is you're going to have trouble getting dental, but you know, like national healthcare policy is changing, so that's good. But the good thing is like in 2002, when I got out of school, the gatekeepers of like the industry were still very much in place. You had big corporate-owned newspapers or TV that were running the show, and if you wanted to get any story out, you had to do that. Otherwise, you're going to be like writing for some zine that was like published like on a photo Xerox machine. Like seriously, there was no way to reach audience. That's over. That's been like destroyed, right? Like you now using this is crazy. You now using this can write your story and publish it to the whole world. Okay, right? So that's really cool because it's upended this hierarchy, and I don't know, you guys are going to find your way, and it's probably going to really suck, but like, I mean, it's going to be an unpleasant and difficult journey, but you know, you're going to find your way through this landscape, and you'll just go to the places that call you and find the ways to reach the audience that you want to. But you now have a million different ways, whereas before there was very few ways.
Thank you so much to our panel. We will remember that, their words of wisdom. Most of all, work hard. Journalism is a labor of love. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. And I just want to take one crack at this question myself based on what we heard tonight, and that is that if you listen carefully, every one of these stories began with people. And if they wound up being people that were terribly affected by failed institutions and venal institutions. And those are the kinds of stories I think that you will want to pursue wherever you wind up working. And I also want to thank the panelists for just a wonderful night. Thank you so much.